Hi, Barbara. Welcome to the interview today. I'm really thrilled to have a chance to speak with you and to learn a bit more about your experience with Homelike. So welcome. How are you?
I'm great.
That's great. Well, I guess the first question I had for you is how did you discover Homelike?
When my husband and I decided to rent a place in Valencia, I had read that in Europe they sort of look down their nose at Airbnb and which is a service we use here in the US quite a bit. So I looked around for European companies and stumbled on Homelike, and that's what we used the first year. It worked great. So I went back a second year.
Oh, great. Okay. So what initially attracted you to Homelike in the first place? Did you compare to other services and what made you land on Homelike?
I didn't as much the first year. I read about some different ones, and I liked that Homelike had a lot of places in Spain. I assume other parts of Europe as well, but they had a really good selection in Spain and a really good selection in Valencia, which is a less popular location for some services.
Right. So your intention to use Homelike was more as like extended vacation type thing?
Yeah, we're retired and we live in a cold climate, so we wanted to escape for a couple of months.
Fair
So we
enough.
thought we'd try a month the first time, and then we liked it so much and we came back home to bad weather the first year that we thought, "Let's go 2 months." It was a
Oh,
it was a good amount of time, but we stayed in
nice.
one place, not counting just some little, 2, 3-day trips.
Yeah, of course. And Spain is such a beautiful country.
Yes, and we
Um,
speak hablamos un poco de español, so it makes it
uh,
you feel like at least you can join
that's good.
in regular
Yeah,
day operations.
that's good. How was the food? Yeah,
Oh, it suits us really well. I don't know that we ever got completely in sync with the different meal times in Valencia, but I love the food. I love the markets where you go and buy fresh fruits, vegetables, meat, cheese. They're just
yeah.
wonderful. That was part of the fun.
So I wanted to ask you a bit more about your booking experience with Homelight. So can you share your experience about the booking experience and the booking process?
Sure. I've spent, probably a good part of 2 to 3 weeks just kinda looking at different apartment options, sizes, neighborhoods, what they look like, where they were located, what the amenities were, and then probably the first year I had some questions that I might have sent in an email or contact form, and people from Homelike were so responsive that made me feel pretty great, like, okay, these are people who, this is their business. They take this seriously. And then so you pick an apartment and then you end up paying the first month's rent, which you can do on a credit card, or I did the second year anyway. That was really slick. And then the Home Light connected us to the people who manage the apartment in the home country. And I sort of felt like, well, they've probably been vetted a little bit by Home Like, so I can feel like I can trust them to have a nice place. It'll look like what the pictures did. They'll take care of things if we need to when we're there. And our experience with that part was really good too. But the booking was so simple. It's really, you give some information, pick your dates, transfer the money, and you're done.
So as simple as booking a hotel, I suppose.
At least as simple, sure.
Great. Oh, that's good. And were there any issues along the way? Like, did you have any roadblocks at all in the process?
Not with Home Like, and I wouldn't even say with the landlord either. We had a few maintenance issues that they took care of right away once I contacted them.
Mm. And what stood out with Homelight compared to other service providers? Was it just that you found the right apartment, or is it that there are certain features or things that others might be lacking?
Well, I probably only got as far down the road with one other service, and what
Mm.
I felt they weren't as good as, it wasn't very transparent. For example, the price that was listed on the website ended up being almost 50% more by the time I was ready to select and book. So that made me feel a little negative about that company. So then I had been looking at both all along. I just went back to Homelike because I knew the price they had showed me was what it was going to be when I came to pay. There
Yeah.
was a staff person, in this case, his name was Adam, and, he answered questions right away. He checked in right away. He made sure the contract got signed efficiently. I felt like somebody was sort of keeping an eye on the account and making sure it moved along the way it was supposed to.
Yeah, great. Oh, that's really good feedback. That's nice to hear. And honestly, as much as we try to automate the process as much as possible to keep the cost down to the end user, it's really important for us that we have that human touch. So people like yourself, you feel like you are being taken care of well, and that you're feeling safe. Because I can imagine that, like, were there any reservations knowing that you had to book something online and not being able to view the place face to face?
I really didn't have any because I've done enough short-term rentals here that have turned out fine.
Right.
So I didn't really have any big reservations. It's a little more money, of course, than, I've committed in the past, but we're able to do that. And then once I had 1 year of confidence, the second year was even easier.
Okay, good. And Homelike is an all-inclusive service. Was that a factor that made you feel more at ease, knowing that you wouldn't have to sort out internet and deal with any appliances? It was already there for you?
Yeah. I mean, again, the amenities you listed on your website, the photographs you listed on your website, that all matched up with what we found. So that gives one more confidence that, there's nothing sneaky going on, nothing bait and switch.
Yeah, good. And were there any instances where you needed assistance?
Yeah. This year, once I think it was the landlord or the manager, it turns out, actually sent us a contract to sign. And it was a contract that looked very much like the one I used last year, so that was helpful, the terms anyway. And then there was some lag. The people in Valencia weren't signing the contract. I think it took them maybe a week and a half to 2 weeks. And so when I contacted Homelike, then they contacted the folks on the ground in Valencia, and it happened like that. So I felt like, well, that's great. Then if I don't get responses from the landlord, at least I have Homelike to back up to and help me out.
Yeah, good. Oh, that's really good. And how was your check-in and check-out experience?
Better this year because all I had to do was get to the apartment, go to the front door, call the people on the ground in Valencia, and they buzzed us in the front door and then buzzed us in the apartment. Last year, we had to meet somebody physically at the place, and there was a little bit of delay in, of course, transportation. And then our cell phones didn't work as well as we thought they were going to be. So I kept somebody waiting for me last year. I felt a little bad about that. But so I liked the automatic check in. That was really
That's
nice.
good. Oh,
What
that's
would
good.
be
And
even be better, you asked for insights. A lot of
yeah,
times what we use here in the United States is lock boxes, and I don't know if those are common or not, or an electronic code that you just put in when you get there yourself. That would even be better so that someone didn't have to attend to a call or actually meet us at an apartment.
oh, that's great insight. Yeah, we are seeing that more and more landlords are doing things like that, but it's a gradual process. But so
Yeah, I
get used to
assume.
their own. That's the thing. That's good. And was the communication from home like during that check-in and check-out process helpful? Was that useful, or was it not necessary in your experience?
No, I thought it was really useful, and it just made me feel like someone's paying attention to this account. They're gonna see it through to the end, and when I had questions, they were really responsive, so I appreciated that.
Okay, that's really good. And in terms of the rental, did you find that it was good value for money?
Yeah, I think that's the one part of, Spain maybe that's more similar to costs here is the rent, so it didn't seem exorbitant. I probably would have paid a little more here in the States for what we got there. So yeah, it was a good value. And, I know people now that live there and they pay considerable less, but since I'm using a service, I can't really deal directly with a landlord for a short term. I
Mhm.
think the service on top of the rental is worth what I pay.
Yeah, it's sort of like a peace of mind type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, understood. Yeah, I think I would feel the same. Like you kind of feel like you're somewhat protected if you're using a legitimate service like Homelike.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. So on a scale from 1 to 10, how satisfied were you with your experience with Homelike?
Well, I definitely say a 10, and I'm kind of a hard grader, but I really don't have any concerns.
Oh, that's great. And then if you were having to recommend Homelike to a friend, what would you say to them? What would be your insights or feedback?
Everybody asks us how we found our apartment and that sort of thing. So I already have recommended it to friends. And because I've used it and I don't have any concerns, that's what I'm passing on. And I think other people are happy to hear that because it is a little bit of a maze of, how do you find something and how do you trust it?
Yeah, of course. Of course. I think, yeah, the word of mouth is definitely going to go a long way with all of that for sure. So I guess it goes without saying, but you've already used Homelike twice, but would you continue using Homelike in the future?
Definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
that's super nice to hear.
Something popped up that just seemed really great and, played through. I might consider it, but, I've looked both years now and really not found something comparable.
Yeah. Well, with that in mind, do you have any suggestions of how Homelike could improve their service?
No, other than that lockbox thing, which isn't really your bailiwick, that's more the owner's.
Yeah.
I think it worked really slick. One thought was to have Homelike manage all the money transfers to the landlord, but honestly, it's not that hard to do wire transfers either, so that's not that big a deal.
Yeah. Okay. That's super good. And just trying to think, like, what's next? Do you have any other destinations in mind for future?
Maybe Portugal, but I think for the winter, probably back to Valencia, kind of starting to feel like home.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Have you explored other parts of Europe as well?
A little bit in France, a little bit in Italy. I have an Italian passport, and my
Oh,
grandparents
nice.
were immigrants from there. And Tunisia, that's not Europe, but yeah, maybe what we've discovered is we kind of like having a home base, and then it's so easy to fly or take a train within Europe to other places.
Yeah.
That works really well for us rather than to look for a whole new location or, be constantly moving.
Of course. Yeah. I like what you've done is using Homelike as a base. And I guess you're probably integrating into the culture a bit more than you would on a short term stay, right? Like a weekend or something.
I think so. And then last year we stayed in the old city.
Oh,
And I
nice.
always felt like I was more of a tourist then because there's tourists everywhere, there's souvenir shops
Yeah.
everywhere, and I love the energy and the little streets. This year, we were just the other side of the Turia, so I felt like I was in a neighborhood where people were going to work and they had, going to the grocery store and, just living their life.
Yeah.
I liked that better. We were kind of on a busy street, so that was a little noisy, but we got used to it really fast.
Yeah. And did you make local friends as well?
I wouldn't say friends. Last year, we made a friend that owned a little restaurant that we went to a few times. This year, I'd say, like, our doorman certainly,
Yeah.
was on a first name basis with us. And in the markets and stuff, we had certain vendors we would use again and again, and they didn't know our name, but they certainly recognized us. And
Yeah.
we're really pretty friendly, and people are always so surprised, like, "Oh, you can speak Spanish?" And, we'd say, "Well, not very well," but, they always happy that at least we led with Spanish, even if
Yeah.
it got complicated pretty fast.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Sounds like a really nice cultural experience. Um, yeah.
Yeah, we
Certainly
had a
something.
couple visitors this year, both from the United States, and I think
Right.
they both left saying, "Wow, Valencia is really nice, and I can see why you like it here." They had a good
Yeah.
experience as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. Honestly, Barbara, I don't think I've got any other questions for you. I would love to hear anything more that you have to say about your experience. But yeah, otherwise, I'd really like to thank you.
Yeah, I think that's it. If you end up needing a bit of information or two, you've got my email. So otherwise, thanks for your time too. Nice to match a face with a name.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks, Barbara. I really appreciate everything.
All right. Take care.